Hello dear students, I hope you are all fine. Today we are going to discuss one last financial statement analysis technique, which is the uses and sources of funds statement. This financial analysis technique help us or help the management to determine and to know where did the funds came from and how it was spent or used. This means that we are going to make a statement which is divided into two parts. The first part includes the uses of funds. What are the uses of funds, or how can we use the funds? We can use the funds in acquiring fixed assets like buying land, buying machines, or in investment, or we can pay some dividends or pay loans or pay whatever liabilities, okay? And we can make a redemption of loan or share in capital. These are all uses of funds. So from where or what are the sources of funds? We get funds from the cash generated by the business trading activities, from selling its goods or its services. These activities generate funds to the company, or from issuing shares or loan capital. I can issue share for anyone to buy, and by this way I generate or bring fund to the company, okay? Or by disposal, it means selling any fixed asset that is not used within the activities. I can sell it and get fund instead. These are the sources of funds. In short, or in an easy manner, we can say that uses of funds happen when assets increase from one year to another, liabilities and owner's equity decrease from one period to another, and sources of funds come from the opposite. Here we said increase in asset. Here sources are decrease in assets. Here we said liabilities and owner's equity decrease. For sources, we mean increase in liabilities and owner's equity. So the uses of funds are exactly the opposite to sources of funds. And you can use this graph to as a summary. Here the increase and here the decrease. If it is in an increase and assets, then it's a use of fund. If it is a decrease and assets, then it is a source of fund. If it is an increase and liability, it is source. If it is decrease and liability, it is use. So here is an example to illustrate how to make the uses and sources of funds statement. This given is about McKinley Company. You have the balance sheet and you have the information or the data for 2 successive years, 2019 and 2020. And this is a must to make the uses and sources of funds statement. You must have a balance sheet for 2 successive years. It cannot be done for 1 year, neither can be done to the income statement. In order to solve the problem and make the use and sources of funds statement, you're gonna copy this given and add 4 more columns here, one called increase and decrease uses and sources of fund column, just as we're gonna see now. Here is the solution. Like I told you, you're gonna copy the given. Here are the items, 2019 and 2020. And you're gonna add these 4 columns here, increase, decrease, uses, and sources. What you're gonna do is, you're gonna see or you're gonna calculate the difference between 2019 and 2020, and whether this difference is an increase or a decrease. For example, what happened to cash? In 2019, we had 100 cash. In 2020, it became 150. So the difference here is 50 and it is an increase. So you place it in the increase column. Here, no decrease, okay? So, and apply the rule. If it is an asset and increase, this is considered as a uses or sources. It's sure a uses of fund, like the previous rule said. How about land? In 2019, we had land for 50. In 2020, we had land for 60. So there is a difference equal to 10, and it is an increase also. So we place 10 under the column increase. Any increase in assets is a uses of funds. So place the 10 in the uses column. For equipment, we had 200 equipment in 2019 and it became 150 in 2020. So it decreased by 50. So we place the 50 under the decrease column. If it is an asset and it decreased, then this is considered as a source of fund. Just follow the rule. The rule says that any decrease in asset is a source of fund. Any increase in asset is a uses of fund. And so on up till the end of the given balance sheet. And ignore the totals. We don't make this calculation for the totals. We make it only for the items. When you are done, when you add the uses of funds column, 50 plus 10 plus 20 plus 50 plus 30, the result will be equal to 160. It should be exactly equal the total of sources. And these two columns are the sources and uses of fund statement. The total uses equal to the total sources. Then you are required to comment on these figures and tell us what does it mean, like we're gonna see in a while. So we can start our comment by first commenting on the sources. Let us see from where McKinley Company got its fund. McKinley Company sold its part of its equipment, maybe not needed, for $50 as a source of fund. So we can say that McKinley, one of its sources was selling its or part of its equipment. And the major source was from the accounts payable. There was a decrease in the accounts payable for how much, or for an increase in the account payable for how much? For 100. This increase in liability is considered as a source of fund also. And only 10 from collecting its debtors or collecting its account receivable from the clients. So McKinley got like $50 from selling its equipment, 100 from the accounts payable, and 10 from the debtors. Type. How did McKinley used that fund? McKinley used this fund in many ways. The company used 80 to increase its assets in the form of land and in buying inventory. And also they kept $50 as cash. All this indicates that the company is expanding and is getting bigger in size, and this means that future profits might be generated. Why? Because investing in the assets, buying more assets, means that the company is growing and the company is expanding and more capacity is added. This means that future sales will increase and future profits might be generated. Also, McKinley was wise to use $80 to settle some of its liability. They paid $50 to notes payable and $30 for the loan. This is a very wise decision to use some of the fund to pay the liability in order to make our financial position more strong. This is how we comment on the sources and uses of funds statement. Thank you and see you all soon.